It is great to be here with you.
Cindy, thank you for having me. I'm so looking forward to our talk today. Our conversation is going to be awesome.
Why don't you start by telling us a little bit about yourself?
Well, let's see. My name is Lisa Duerre. I am the CEO and co-founder of RLD Group. I am a podcast host, a mother, a daughter, an auntie, a friend, and I'm also a woman who believes that motherhood and career matter. And it matters to the point where it's pretty much a passion of mine when I talk about this. So I'm excited to jump in today to talk about all things work, leadership, career, motherhood, and everything in between.
You work to upskill and develop corporate managers, often on behalf of the companies that they work for. So, what are some of the common situations that you see?
Yeah, right now, what we're seeing a lot of. So we work with many name brand companies, um, large Fortune 500 companies, global brands. And what we're seeing in tech, because that's the space that we play in, is the world has changed pre-COVID to now. It's being labeled as Bonnie. So what that means in the world we're in is that it's brittle. People are anxious. It's nonlinear, the world that you're living in, and it's incomprehensible in many times. So what happens for leaders and managers is because everything is upside down. So you think it's strong and you can count on tomorrow, but tomorrow flips upside down. You feel like, oh, I know what's going on, but layoffs and budget freezes and politics and everything in between make people anxious. It's never a straight line anymore with the AI release on everything. And incomprehensible is like we didn't even see what was possible a year ago, and the world has changed so much that what we're seeing for leaders specifically is change fatigue. They're exhausted. Leaders who are in charge of making decisions, they're literally suffering from imposter syndrome and self-doubt because they don't know what they can count on anymore. And we are seeing burnout on epic levels across the board, from individual contributor to leaders at the top.
So, what are your suggestions for those who are managing teams?
Oh, the first suggestion is to recognize where we are in the world. Because if you keep denying it, you keep thinking, well, it worked 2 years ago, right? You're already setting yourself up for failure. So we have to start asking ourselves different questions. So one of the things I can say for sure is that our model at RLD Group is one that creates and inspires leaders to be flexible, intuitive, resilient, and mindful. And I'm not saying we're just doing a yoga class. That's not what we do, right? But we really do talk about what are the stories and the beliefs that you're holding about your company? How are you treating your team? What are you looking for that's underneath or behind the Zoom screen? A lot of times right now, people are saying 3 days in the office, just get back. Well, for the working moms and the working parents, that sends shivers down people's spines with commutes and getting back and forth and being fully present, getting dressed to be on camera, getting dressed to be in the office. So what we're suggesting to managers and leaders right now is to really sit down and co-create the environment where your employees can thrive, and you as a leader can create and hold the space so that you can still get the work done. Right? So it's not just no one person has all the answers anymore. There's too much change going on. So you have to lean into each other and extract the information from the collective wisdom inside your organization.
So, I'm wondering, does the company culture sometimes play a part in creating problems for the manager? Or is it up to the managers to actually adjust to the companies? I mean, what should these companies be thinking about?
I think, Cindy, this question is so important. So here's the deal. I'm going to say that they're interdependent, right? So the culture is created at the top by the values that the company sets, not just on the wall, but like what is lived inside the organization. And it also is set by the way that the managers and leaders are onboarded and equipped to make decisions and to lead. So, it starts there on the outside, but on the inside, each manager, each leader is responsible for being a culture ambassador, right? And if the values aren't aligned or what's on the wall doesn't match the behavior, you're going to have a serious disconnect. And one of the things I recommend to all organizations is to look at it through the lens of three things. So first, I as a person, what am I contributing to the organization? And then there's we, which is the team level. And then there's us, which is the organization. And until you look at all three of those lenses, you run the risk of having a disconnect and the potential for your culture to not match inside organizations in different divisions and across levels. So without that, you're just going to have silos and a breakdown, right? So some teams are high performing. They love the leader. Everything's great. And other teams are a hot mess. And it's because there's a disconnect between the I, we, us, and it's important to look at all three of those levels. And it's interdependent. It's both.
That's fascinating. It's really interesting. So, from your insider perspective, what should employers be doing to support the women specifically in their organizations?
My first response is probably going to irritate some people, but I think it's really important to say. So I'm just going to be me and keep it real. There's this big movement right now for like women's resource groups and employee resource groups, right? And there's no funding. So it's all volunteer, right? So these working moms and these women in organizations who are either trying to become a mom or perhaps are an auntie to someone or caretaking in some level, some way, right? They're put in these groups to feel commonality and to support each other. And there's no funding from the organization to either bring in development training, resources available to them, community building tools, etc. We do a lot of pro bono work in ERGs, right? And I'm flabbergasted at what is expected of these groups to support and equip these women without the funding. Right. So the first thing I would say is what employers can do is actually put the money where their mouth is and actually support these organizations with time, money, and allies. So I'll drop that bomb and just leave it, let it land, and hopefully not. I don't think this is a surprise. I'm sure there's people nodding right, like, yep, we keep volunteering for more. So I would say fund it. Right. The second thing I would say is that really co-create the environment where your employees can thrive. So this is for women and beyond. And what happens is when you get this edict at the top, like you must have 3 days in the office, let's just say, that's really great at a high level. It seems to make sense. It seems fair, but the reality is not every function is the same. Not every location is the same. And you need to empower your leaders to be flexible within that edict. It's critical, especially for women at work. I would say the third thing is the women inside the organization, helping them fine tune and level up their influence skills so that it's safer for them and they feel more confident in having boundaries. As you know, for me, working and worried about losing my job, that is not high performance, right? That's just a stress ball waiting to happen. And so if the leaders in the organization and the women in the organization as leaders and individual contributors have a better understanding that you don't have to say no. Nobody wants to say no, but you can say yes and or yes if, and then lead up to helping people prioritize with you. You're in a much better shape to not burn them out and to figure out what matters most and what is the critical need right now. And it's a co-created solution. It can't just be, hey, leader, go do this. You have to be curious with the people on your team and what their needs are so you can foster that environment for performance.
Such amazing insight. This is fabulous.
Okay.
Fabulously amazing. So appreciative of your time and wisdom. Thanks, Lisa.
Thank you, Cindy. It's a pleasure to be here.